R&B diva Milira. She's up next. Let's talk. What's up, everybody out there? How you doing? Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode over here at Peppy's Point of View. That's right. I am your host, your R&B historian, Peppy. And we're talking about R&B diva Milira today. Yes, we're talking about her first album, her debut album on the Motown Records label back in 1990. All right, so let's go ahead on and get started, shall we? Woo! All right. Now, let's talk about the book club, obviously, right? Let's get right into that real quick and go ahead on and handle the regular smuggler. Book club, I have it. I'm working on it right now. I'm trying to weed everything out, but we have Joyce Cinderella Irby of Climax. She has her own version of Climax. She has a book out called called I Still Say Yes, sorry. Then you have Faith Evans. She has a book out called Keep the Faith. David Nathan, his book, The Soulful Diva. And Gladys Knight of the Gladys Knight and Pips fame. She has a book out called Between Each Line of Pain and Glory, okay? And yes, as I said before, I'm going to say it again, I'm not affiliated with any of these R&B divas or David Nathan at all. This is not paid promotion, anything like this. It's just that I like these books and I want to start a book club, so I have. I haven't purchased any new books right now because I'm trying to, catch up on some things. And speaking of catching up, what I'm doing right now over in my community tab on the YouTube page, I have some R&B divas I said that I was going to, post videos about. So that's what I'm doing since, we got all this snow and everything's going on in the city, the town, the state, or whatever you want to call it, has kind of like shut down some things for the most part, and if you don't need to be out here in this snow, don't. Especially if you're not like a snow state, where, people look at this like, oh, it's just snow. Move it out the way and let's keep moving, business as usual. But, where I'm from, it's not like that. It's like, snow. You can go out there in the snow if you want to. But anyway, so I'm trying to catch up, on doing some of those. I think I know who I'm going to do next. But anywho, moving right along from that. Now, let's get right into the next thing that I want to talk about, and that is Motown. Since Milira is on Motown, and I like to have a segment of my show now that's called Back Down Memory Lane. Okay, now this is the cover of the Motown 25 special back in, I guess, May 1983 or something like that, when Motown had its special, Motown 25. This here is the show where Michael Jackson introduced the moonwalk, to the world, as they say. Now, many years ago, several years ago, maybe could be 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, there was a television commercial actually promoting the sale of the Motown 25 video, or as I would like to call it, the Diva, the DVD. So they were selling the Diva through this commercial on this television commercial. And I was saying to myself, I was like, it'd be cool and neat to get that. I never got around to doing it. Long story short, one day I'm in one of my favorite places. It was a bookstore, and I was looking for some music, and looking for some books to, purchase. And there I am going through some things, and lo and behold, and that was years ago. Guess what? I got my own copy of the Motown 25 special. Now, what really made me want to get a copy of this special was, at the time, this person that I was associated with, she had one of Mary Wilson's books. And in her book, she talked about this event, okay, the night of this event. And allegedly, I don't know, it's her book. I'm saying allegedly. I'm not saying that the boss was acting like a boss at the time, but allegedly, Mary Wilson said, Diana Ross did some elbowing. That's what she said. Now, I don't know if Mary Wilson just got a little too close, back in the day, you would stand here and she would stand there. And I don't know if she felt like he was coming a little too close. Like, baby, don't try it over here. And I guess she said, this is special. I'm trying to get in the limelight. And allegedly, Diana Ross kind of elbowed her a little bit, out the way. Well, now there's some confirmations, across the page that said that, this actually did happen. I don't know. I'm not the one to gossip, so you ain't heard it from me. But that's another reason why I wanted to get it, just to see if, in fact, it was going to be there. And, of course, when I watched it, I was like, okay, why would I think it would be there? If it was there, people would still be buying this and talking about this today. So I'm going to assume that they actually edit that version out. So when I'm watching it and I'm looking for it, I was like telling the person, I think it happened right here, because of the editing. I'm like, I think it happened right there. But now, everybody talks about the elbowing, allegedly by Diana Ross. People talk about Michael Jackson introducing the moonwalk that night. And I'm pretty sure people just talk about, in general, all of the Motown acts showing up and performing. But there's something else that I want to talk about as it relates to Motown 25, and that is the performance when the group DeBarge, El DeBarge, and another group a female group by the name of, is it High Fusion, High Fashion? It's I think it's a 3-girl group, a trio, and they're performing, and of course, the Barge is performing their songs, but then towards the end, there's they also perform a song called "He's a Pretender," and then the two groups perform together. That performance, and I'm going to try to find it and leave it, put the link in the description box below, so you can just go straight to it. That's my favorite part of the show. That's the highlight of the show. For me, is to see DeBarge and High Fashion, High Fusion perform together, and they did like maybe 2 or 3 songs together during their set, right? But it was great. I loved it. And it had me going looking for this girl group. Like, okay, why didn't these girls or ladies, hit after this show? Because I've never heard of them before. But anyway, great show as far as Motown is concerned. So if you don't have it, CDs or DVDs, we don't have them anymore like that. But I'm pretty sure you can go download it, watch it somewhere. It's great. I think if you're musically inclined, I think it's great. A great show to watch. Now, speaking of Motown and getting ready to get right into talking about Milira, and I think this is a good place to start to talk about Milira. I really and truly do. Now, that's 1983. And I guess you can say, for the most part, I guess Motown is still Motown. Of course, Diana Ross has left, Motown, and you have who? Rick James is on Motown in the early 1980s, right? Smokey Robinson is still over there. He's having some hits. So I guess you could say, for the most part, I guess Motown is still Motown in the early 80s, but towards the mid to late 80s, it seems as if its popularity its influence in the music industry is probably kind of fizzling. But at the same time, it looks like Motown Records is definitely trying to revive the label. I say that because you have Milira here. She's on Motown in 1990. Then you have, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of all the people over there in Motown back in the day. Oh gosh. The Boys, they have a song out called Die My Heart. The Boys is over there on Motown. Of course, Milira is on Motown. You have a girl group by the name of the Good Girls are on Motown. Michael Bivins of New Edition starts a label, Biv 10. And so he has groups like ABC, and of course, Boys to Men. Johnny Gill is over at Motown. The Pointer Sisters are now signed to Motown. Diana Ross comes back to Motown. And I think that she said at the time, I'm sorry for closing my eyes, but that's the only way I can remember all of this stuff. She says with her album, Working Overtime, when she comes back, I think now part of her deal coming back to Motown is that somehow or another she has some kind of partnership with the label. Like she comes back, like head honcho, in a roundabout sort of way. Like she is invested, in Motown. There's a rapper by the name of MC Trouble who passed shortly being signed to Motown. I think she had epilepsy. She comes out. So there's a lot of things that really and truly is trying to go on around within the label. But it seems as if something is not clicking. And I think the thing that is not clicking for Motown, from my perspective, this is my perspective, is how we try to hold on to the past? Like Motown is such a influential, groundbreaking, trend-setting, like the musicians, the singers, the songwriters, the producers that come out of Motown, they're so like top notch and just ingrained in the culture. Is that when you're seeing these young, inspiring singer songwriters and musicians coming over to the label, I think, this is just my opinion, that we probably didn't take them seriously. And we looked at them like, say for instance, like someone like Milira, right? And I'm not saying this happened, but I'm just talking about in my mind. It could be that we look at someone like Milira and say, okay, but you're not Diana Ross. Like Motown, they put out Diana Ross. Do you see what I'm saying? Like Gladys Knight was over there. Like what's going on here? And even though you have someone like Johnny Gill, who obviously does well over there, you can still say that he's still kind of in the shadows of a Smokey Robinson or a Rick James, so to speak, or Stevie Wonder. And Johnny Gill is great. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I think that somehow or another they lose that. As well as for someone like, say, for instance, like a Diana Ross, who returns to Motown like in 1989 or so, 88 or 89. It's kind of like, oh, well, she's back. Diana Ross, she's back over there at Motown. And so not only that, we're expecting good things to come from Diana Ross's partnership with Motown again. And so when we get this song that I really liked called Working Overtime, it was so different from what we've known her for doing. It was like, okay, it's good. I like it. It's a real good, nice dance track. But then you didn't hear anything else from the album. You just didn't. And and then you have the Pointer Sisters who are over there, and you see what they do, And I liked the song. What was the name of that song? Friends Advice. I'm like, okay, I like this, but it just didn't hit. So I don't know. So I like to think for the most part, this is where we find Milira in that, and I don't know if anyone who's ever asked her, I didn't look to see any interviews or anything about her, to get her take on things. But I will say that I would like to know, like, what was it like being signed to Motown and the pressure? Was it more like, okay, well, this is, Motown. I know this is going to be great. We're going to have some success because it's Motown. But the Motown acts at that time were not the Motown acts in the past. I would just say it that way. And I'm not saying that they're coming up short. I'm saying in our mind and in the culture, I wonder if that's the reason why they did. I'm talking about like across the board with DJs, with publications, and all of that. Could that have been the reason why? And I'm going to say this. I know some people are going to probably say, what? I'm also wondering, like, maybe the reason why Boyz II Men, it's just my opinion, Boyz II Men was such a successful group is because En Vogue came before Boyz II Men and already laid out that foundation for, singing a cappella, that harmony again and looking good and all of that stuff. So it was something new, and Boyz II Men offered something, different and fresh, and I'm wondering if that's the reason why Boyz II Men pretty much did what they did, even though they did have some good songs and some good songwriters. But at the end of the day, I still say everyone who came after En Vogue copied En Vogue. So I'm wondering, is that the reason why they were successful? Because in my head, now that I think about it, Johnny Gill and Boyz II Men, you would say, would be the breakout artists on Motown at the time. And that probably wasn't enough to keep the label going, So anywho, let's talk about Milira, shall we? All right. Let's get right into this Milira situation, right? So what do we know about Milira? Milira Jones, she's no relations, we're not related. Better known as Milira, is an R&B soul singer born in Hollis, New York. She released 2 albums in the 1990s and had 4 charting singles on the Billboard R&B singles, with 2 peaking in the top 40. Milira won an amateur night at the Apollo Theater in the late 1980s, which led to a recording contract with Apollo Records, a label distributed through Motown Records. Prior to her signing with Motown, Jones released her debut album on June 15, 1990. Her debut album spent 42 weeks on the Billboard R&B charts, reaching number 29. It scored 2 top 40 R&B singles: Go Outside in the Rain, 36, and a cover version of Marvin Gaye's Mercy Mercy Me, which reached 21. She again released another album in 1992 called Back Again, with the singles One Woman reaching 45 and Three's a Crowd, which reached 94 on the R&B charts. She has continued to record sporadically throughout the years, with her last known record being released in 2000, September 12, 2000. Going back to what I was just thinking about with Motown, she, as I said, recorded a version of Marvin Gaye's Mercy Mercy Me. The Good Girls on the label recorded a version of the Supreme's Love Is Like an Itching in My Heart. All of it was good, but do you see what I was trying to say? Like, it seemed like they were trying to mix in the old with the new. It looks, when you think about it, it looks like it would be ideal, right? But I don't know. It's something just didn't mesh well. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, so Being that Milira's music, her songs, her releases, the 4 songs she did release, did not really chart high on the R&B charts, and it looks like she did not chart at all on the pop charts. For a person such as myself, I think I recall coming across Milira maybe in 2 ways. It could have been my aunt, or I think it was because I was glued into the television set watching, BET and all of their programming over there. And I think I just so happened to come across her song, Go Outside in the Rain. And it was played pretty often. And so for me, I think I just took a liking to, the song and saying, okay, all right, I like this. This is nice. I like this. And then, one day I look up and I see that she's on Apollo. I was like, oh, okay, Milira, I know this song. She's on Apollo. So other than her videos and her performing on Apollo, that was it. I don't remember her being on any other programs at all on BET other than her videos. And she very well could have. But she just wasn't there. I don't even remember her being on Soul Train. Now, speaking of Soul Train, this is alleged because this is just crossing my mind. I could be wrong about this, but it's alleged. I remember watching a documentary, and it could have been about Soul Train, or it could have been about Dawn Cornelius, or it could have been someone talking about Soul Train and how, allegedly, Dawn Cornelius, he wasn't too thrilled about certain acts being on his show. That's what, this particular person insinuated. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Dawn Cornelius said it. I think it was more like maybe Dawn said this himself in this interview. He was like, wait, I'll give you a prime example. Let's say a label, let's say Warner Brothers. Let's say Warner Brothers is like, hey, we got this new artist. We want them to come on to the show, and be on Soul Train. And Dawn would be allegedly like, well, that's great, but can I get Shaka Khan? It seemed like he was having sometimes a tough time getting those main acts, on the show. Like those top tier acts on the show. And so, but and maybe that's the reason why, I don't recall her being on the show, but I think it was kind of tough. I think it was kind of tough for Dawn Cornelius. I want to call him Dawn Cornelius to get on the show. But anywho, it is what it is. So let's go ahead on right into it. I think I can do this in 7 minutes, talking about Milira's album. It's a decent effort. I like it. It's the only thing. I don't know if people think about it at the time when they're putting their albums together. At this time, I don't know if they're saying to themselves like, okay, well, let's just get some great, we got to have a great singer, obviously. So all we need to do is put some songs in front of her, some great songs, and it'll be, a hit, right? The thing, if there's an issue with Milira's album, for me, it would be the fact she doesn't have a sound. Right? It's just typical music, that you would just hear. It's just like, okay, we done went in, we done produced this song, it sounds good. Okay. We done went in, we done produced this song, it sounds good, great. But there's no sound, is what I'm saying. And for me, I like an album to have a sound. I would like for my, my musicians, my, singers, whether they're R&B divas or soul men, I like for them to have a sound. And so I would say that the first thing that when I think about Milira's album is the fact that it doesn't have a sound, but it's still good. And Sometimes you want to have that bass, you want to have that hard hitting sound, and it's just not there. But other than that, it's a great album. I really and truly like it and enjoyed it. All right, let's get right into it. What did I enjoy? Well, of course, Mercy, Mercy Me is well, it's a staple in music culture. It just is. It's just a wonderful, great song. I mean, Marvin Gaye singing it back when he first recorded it, Milira singing it in 1990, and someone else singing it and releasing it in 2024. The song will forever be relevant. It will forever be relevant. It will forever be relevant. The next song on the album, Go Outside in the Rain, when I heard it the first time, and this is my favorite song on the album. I like it a lot. I don't know why. I think somebody else has did a version of this song, Go Outside in the Rain. I don't know why I want to think it's one of those ladies from Escape. But anywho, when I first heard the song back in the day, I was like, okay, this is kind of sound like Keith Sweat, The Rain, which I later found out that his version of The Rain is a version of another, it's a remake. Keith Sweat's The Rain is a remake. And so her version of The Rain, which is not Keith Sweat's version of The Rain, but it's a similar. When I hear it, I'm like, oh, okay. Keith Sweat's kind of like version of The Rain. I was like, oh, okay. And I'm just talking about back in the day. Then there's a song on the album called Waiting Here for You. I'm saying to myself, I like this a little bit. It's different. The sound is different. And it's a sound that I haven't quite heard before, here with this song Waiting Here for You. And then with the tracks 4 and 5, if I listen to them in this order, you should know I will say that by now. There's a song called That Man in My Life and Good Times Are Back Again. I'm almost saying to myself, like, it's not that I don't like the songs, but tracks 4 and 5 to me come off like fillers. Like, okay, well, here's a couple of fillers, just to put them in. And also, too, I'm also, for whatever reason, I'm thinking about Michael Jackson. I don't know why. Good Times Are Back Again. I don't know why I'm thinking about Michael Jackson when I hear this song. But then it looks like the album comes to life again when I get to track 6. And track 6, the song is called I Want to Be With You. It's a duet with a guy by the name of Michael Calhoun. And I'm wondering what happened to him, because he sounds so much like an Aaron Hall or Brian Morgan. Now, Brian Alexander Morgan, the guy who produced a lot of artists, and I know him from producing SWV and the duets with SWV. What's the name of it? Always on my mind. So the guy, Brian Alexander Morgan, when I hear the song, I Want to Be With You, I think of Brian Alexander Morgan. This guy sounds a lot like him. Then she does a version of Until You Come Back to Me. Milira does. This is 1990. I'm just saying. A year prior, 1989, Mickey Howard did a version of Until You Come Back to Me. So when I'm listening to Milira's version, I'm like, girl, you got to be really, really brave. I mean, I'm just saying, you have to be really brave to do a remake. First of all, just the original remake alone, you got to be brave to do that. But then to turn around a year later and remake a song that was remade again and it was a hit for that other artist, You got to be brave. You know what I'm saying? Like, Mickey Howard's Until You Come Back to Me is still fresh in our minds. Like, forget comparing you to Aretha Franklin. We're going to compare you to Mickey Howard's version. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on now. I'm just saying. So at this moment in time, I'm saying to myself, I just don't want to hear another version of Until You Come Back to Me. That's where I'm getting to. Like, and I think that's what happens. It's not like her version is not good. It's just that, come on now. Come on now. Then we have a song called Let Me Have a Chance. Love it. Up-tempo song. I love Let Me Have a Chance. As I said, at this moment in time, life has been, there's life being, it's coming back into this album. Treat Me Right. I'm still thinking about Brian Alexander Morgan again. It feels like one of his songs. And it features a guy by the name of Brett Carter. I'm loving it. I'm loving the song Treat You Right. Then Home. It's my favorite on the album, the song Home. And like I said, the album now is picking up steam. And then you have a song called That Four-Letter Word, which is a slow song, and I like it a lot. So overall, in general, with Milira's debut album, I love it. I do. But here's the catch with this. And then I end on this note. I'm a particular age at this moment in time, I'm still a youngster. And I'm still having to depend on my parents to, hey, I want to purchase this record. I need some money. Some of those things. But for me at that time to purchase an album, and this is just me because I've never owned this album. So for me to purchase a Milira's album, I would have had to heard more singles from the album. I would have. Prime example. I never owned B&GB's album. You had the songs I Don't Want to Lose Your Love and So Much Love Here. Two great songs. Love them a lot. I eventually purchased the album years later. But I didn't purchase it when it first came out because I'm saying to myself, I need to hear one more single before I purchase it. Why? Because I don't want to purchase an entire album and the two songs that you release are the two songs on the album that I like, right? So for a person such as me, after watching, video, let's say Video Soul or the Top 20 Countdown or just watching videos in general and really looking at the charts, right? At the time, I noticed that record companies would release, for some artists, at least 3 to 4 singles. And I was like, okay, when I saw that trend as a youngster, I was like, okay, I like it. Okay, I like this song. Okay, let me see if I'm going to like the next song. If they do another video or release another single, let me see if I like that one. So by the time I got to the third song that the album, that, an artist would release, I would say, well, those 3 songs are enough for me to purchase the album because I know at least I got 3 songs in that I like. Versus someone else who would probably release 1 song, and I'm like, okay, no, I don't want to take a chance yet. Let me see who else has the album or something like that. But there are times when you will hear that 1 song and you're like, I got to have the album. Like, I just like this song a lot. I like this artist a lot. Forget whether or not I'm going to like the album. I just want it because the song is such a great, great song. And so I think that for me, Milira fell in that category. Interesting. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. Do you like the album? Do you not like the album? Go ahead on and check the album out. I think it's worth listening to. I really and truly do. Put it in your playlist or rotation or whatever you call it these days. It's definitely a great album. On that note, I want you to remember to put your behind where your heart desires to be. And whenever I leave my mother's presence, she always says to me, she says, baby, remember, I love you, but God loves you best. I look forward to seeing your next video. And until the end, you know what to do. Take care of yourselves. All right.